In this video, we're going to take a look at the most requested review, Noodler's Baystate Blue. Now, as always, there's timestamps down below so you can skip around, but if you've got the time, I'd appreciate you checking out the entire video. Also, down in the description is a link to the Blue Ink playlist, so if you wanted to see more, you can find that there. I'm an ink guy. Let's get into the first writing sample done on 90 GSM Clairfontaine. No bleeding, but we are seeing some minor ghosting up at the stub. We have no feather, no spread, no shading whatsoever. The extra fine does show itself being just a little bit lighter than the medium or the stub. The extra fine took 20 seconds to dry, medium took 25, scrubby for both gave no color variation, there was no shading in the writing, and a smear test you could probably recover if you smeared while you were writing. To have a range of experience with this ink, all of the writing samples are done with a Jinhao 159 with a 1.1 stub, a Jinhao X450 with a medium, and a Jinhao X750 with an extra fine. Then a Noodler's Charlie was inked up, used for a day, and used to take the notes for this video. The next writing sample is done on 52 GSM Tomoe River. No bleeding, lots of ghosting. It's a thin paper after all. No feather, no spread, no shading in the writing. The extra fine again shows itself being lighter than the medium or the stub. Extra fine took 26 seconds to dry while the medium took 37. Scrubby for both give no color variation. There was no shading in the writing, and a smear test you probably could not recover if you smeared while you were writing. I agree with Vita. I've learned a lot by doing multiple chromatographies. The one on the left is done the way it's supposed to be done. A line of ink is put down, and then it's put into water for 10 to 15 seconds. And what we see is that this is very evenly pushing not very far up. It's bonding very quickly with the paper. Now the one on the right that's allowed to dry for 10 minutes, I was really very surprised. I expected this ink to have completely bonded in its line, but it didn't. It has an aspect, quite a bit of it, that bonds with the paper, but some of it is still moving up after 10 minutes. But we all know this is an incredibly resistant ink. The next writing sample is done on 80 GSM Rhodia dot pad. No bleeding, but quite a bit of ghostings going on. In fact, there's a couple of spots here where the ink got much deeper into the paper in the stub, but it does have quite a bit of ghosting. We have no feathering, no spread, no shading at all. The extra fine is the lightest tone on the page. The medium's a bit darker than that, and the stub a bit darker than the medium. The extra fine took 21 seconds to dry while the medium took 27. Scrubby for both give no color variation, and there's no shading in the writing, and a smear test you could likely recover it if you smeared while you were writing. Resistance tests are done to see how this ink could be expected to perform on the page, and more importantly, how hard it may be to clean from your pen, although we already know that. This smear is allowed to dry for 3 days before testing it. Looking at the highlighter, this is a great ink to use in a note-taking situation if you need to go back and highlight because it did not budge. Looking at the water, it did not budge. Looking at the pen flush, you do see that some of that blue 3 days later was still able to be pushed away. And I'm a little surprised by that, but not much of it. It's really hard to tell where that blue came from in this smear. Now the 1/3 bleach solution, which yes, of course that's what was needed to get it entirely out of that pen, and that pen was chosen for that reason, it does completely remove it from the paper. The next writing sample is done on yellow Rhodia paper. Not done to see any kind of performance change, really to see what kind of tone change we may go through. And I'm going to be honest with you, I am very surprised that the medium looks a little bit lighter, as does the extra fine. I did not expect those to appear to be lighter tones on yellow, but the stub is unchanged. Regardless, without a doubt, this will stay blue on your yellow paper. For the inks tested, the average viscosity was 2.5, with the realm of normal being from 2.1 to 2.9. Noodler's Baystate Blue has a viscosity of 2.24, so it's normal. The next writing sample is done on white lines paper. Not known for being fountain pen friendly, there is naturally quite a bit of ghosting because this ink is getting very deep into the paper the whole way. In fact, you could practically read this from the back side. So lots of ghosting. Now we have feathering that's occurring in the stub. We have no feathering in the extra fine or medium. We have no spread. We have no color variation shading in the writing at all, but we do have some tone variation from the pen. Now the extra fine and medium are the same tone, just a little bit lighter than the stub. The extra fine took 8 seconds to dry while the medium took 10. The scrubby for both give no color variation. This ink's not known for it and it's not doing it. And the smear test you could recover if you smeared while you were writing. For the inks tested, the average dry time was 17 seconds, with the realm of normal being from 13 to 21 seconds. Noodler's Baystate Blue has an average dry time of 26 seconds, so it took quite a bit longer than normal to dry. The last writing sample is done on Strathmore writing paper. Now there's a lot of bleed very heavy into but not through the paper. It's not touching the page underneath. You can't use the back of the paper. The ghosting is so strong from how deep that ink is getting in there, which I was surprised with this particular paper. We have no feather, no spread, no shading in any of the writing. The extra fine and medium are the same tone, just a hair lighter than the stub. I think that's got more to do with the flow of the pens here. The extra fine took 8 seconds to dry while the medium took 12. Scrubby for both give no color variation. There's no shading in the writing, and a smear test you could recover if you smeared while you were writing. Instead of finding inks that look like Noodler's Baystate Blue, I'd prefer to find an ink that complements its color on the page. Being a super bright blue, I decided to go with a bright orange from Robert Oster, their NG Special. Now, if you'd prefer a different complement color, then down in the description are links to those playlists. So what do I think of Noodler's Baystate Blue? Since writing this, I have ordered a bottle. I'm considering dedicating the Pelikan M800 Stone Garden to this. I would just love to get a fine nib for that pen. Does that let you know what I think about this ink? It's fantastic. So what nib and pen will give the best writing experience with this ink? It largely looks the same no matter what pen you put it out of, which makes it a dealer's choice. However, the fact that it could be a little bit more aggressive means I would go with a medium to dry or even a dry flow pen. I don't see that affecting your color enough, but it can keep that aggressiveness under control. I hope you got something out of this video, and in the next video, we're going to take a look at Iroshizuku's Horsetail. I'm also a little interested to see who comments on my dedicating an M800 to it. I don't know that I'm actually going to do it. I just think it would be funny to see the comments.